It is a huge honor for me today to be podcast interviewing Elijah Desmond, who is the hygienist and founder of SmilesAtSea.com. Elijah is a dental hygienist who graduated from the Ohio State University. You always have to put the in when it's Ohio State University. He is a
Right.
motivational speaker for kids and has a passion for changing lives of kids and dental professionals. Currently, he is touring North America as a certified Straumann speaker, speaking on dental implants and periodontal regeneration with biologics. Elijah is currently working on his fifth business called Smiles at Sea, in which he has put a dental convention on a cruise ship surrounded by having fun. And your smile looks like more fun. I mean, you just look like you're just having a rockin' fun time in life altogether. So how are you doing today?
I'm doing good. I'm doing really good, besides the fact that my bags got lost
Oh.
before I going on a wedding. But other than that, this is what I was wearing yesterday.
So you were just coming back from under one roof.
Yep, RDH on one roof. I just came back from D.C. and headed to Ohio. Yep.
So did you stop by and say hello to the Obama or shake hands with Donald Trump or Hillary, or did you see any politico figures at the convention?
Nope, I see zero political figures. Nope, didn't get a chance to do that.
But
I stay out of politics.
But DC is a fun town. I mean, I love the town. There's just so much. I mean, you can spend an entire day just in one of the museums of natural history or the aeronautical. I mean, it's just and what a refreshing review of history to see all those. If you just read every plaque in that town, you'd get a history degree. So so what do you So I want to start with just Smiles at Sea. I mean, I think that's just amazing.
Yes.
So talk about SmilesAtSea.com. Cruise and learn. Could continue education get any better?
No, it couldn't actually. I went on my very first cruise in 2013, and I had the best experience of my life. I went with one of my buddies, and it was a New Year's cruise, and I stepped onto the cruise ship, and I had to turn off my phone, so I had some anxiety, bad anxiety. So I have multiple businesses, and to keep away from your phone and your email is the end of the world. But I did it, and I went to the top deck, the Lido deck, and first thing I do, I go to the bar and grab a Long Island, and the DJ comes on, the MC says, "Everybody to the dance floor. Who's ready to have a good time?" And I'm like, yeah, me. So I run to the dance floor and he says, "Everybody put your hands in the air." Put my hands in the air, and from that moment on, it was just the best experience of my life. And I thought, if I had another life and I didn't have anything going for myself, I would go and be that MC and just live on a cruise ship. And so for the next year, I thought, how do I get back on the cruise, and how do I turn it into a business of sorts? So as a motivational speaker, I just speak for kids, middle schools, high schools, and colleges, but I was speaking in dentistry as well. I started speaking in dentistry in 2013. And so I'm flying all over the country speaking. And, it hit me one night when I was up for over 48 hours while my daughter was being born. So I was kind of delusional because I was, my thoughts were, to say they were off, they were actually on. And it hit me like a ton of bricks. Why don't I have a dental conference on a cruise ship? And thing is I don't want to speak. I'm a speaker, but I don't want to speak. I just want to be that MC. So I want to pump up everybody. I want to introduce the speakers, and I want to make it the most fun ever. And so I did it. And one thing led to the next. And, I got the LLC, got the website, and followed through on that dream. And the first one, I sold it out with 300.
Nice.
Yeah. And then this one coming up in September, I already have about 400.
So what do I click? Do I click dental enter here to find on the iPhone app?
Let me see. Dental enter here. Yep.
And okay. So dental enter, cruise and learn. Dental enter here.
Uh-huh.
Pick a cruise September.
Yep.
And how many? Now what is this next cruise?
The next, this one is in September the 22nd through the 26th. However, that one's, there's a few more spots left, but the ship itself is almost sold out. But the one in April is the one I'm gearing up for. That's why I had a line at my booth. So I'm bridging the professions of nursing and dentistry. So it's nursing meets, or dentistry meets nursing.
And where did that come from? Dentistry and nursing.
You know,
because hygienist, 4-year degree, nurse, a 4-year degree. I mean, is the same body, same mindset, or where'd that come from?
Well, kind of. But the dental conference is actually for teams, total teams. It's not just a hygiene conference. But at the end of the day, we need to connect the two professions, just medical as a whole and dental as a whole. And basically, what I'm doing is I'm putting 6 hours of continuing education for dental professionals, 6 hours for nursing, 4 hours together. And the 4 hours together, I'm giving nursing CE and dental CE. And then we're going to do an open panel with 3 experts from dentistry, 3 experts from nursing. I'm going to pass them the mic with hot topic questions, and then we're going to open it up at the end for discussion. So that was why I had a line at the booth nonstop, just for that. Everybody's pumped about it.
So your September 22 to 26 to Cozumel is almost sold out.
Yes.
So any of my homies are listening to that. That's almost sold out. But you're trying to ramp up for the April 28th to May 1, 2017.
Correct.
And that one's to the Bahamas.
That one's from Miami to the Bahamas. Yep, this weekend cruise, and that'll be a great one. It's Royal Caribbean. I just toured the ship. The ship is the most beautiful thing ever.
The most fun cruise I ever took was did the Alaskan cruise, and my boys were like, I don't know, like 5, 7, 8, 9, whatever. They're only like 60 months from the oldest to the youngest. And I thought, okay, I'm going to lose them on this cruise ship. So I bought the whole family of those Motorola walkie-talkies. Yeah. And I just left mine on. And those 4, I don't think they ever dawned on them that Dad was listening to all their conversations. And so for a week, they're getting chased. People are telling them to leave. I mean, they went all the way to the first floor. I think they explored every single room of the 10 stores, including floor number 1 where only employees were supposed to go. And all that kind of stuff. So who are your speakers on the Cozumel Cruise coming up for dental?
On the Cozumel Cruise, let me think about this. I have Dr. David Rice.
Oh, yeah. And
Anastasia.
His wife's a hygienist.
His wife is Anastasia. She's also speaking, Anastasia Churchill. I have Susan Wingrove. I have Bernie Stoltz.
Nice.
I have Trisha O'Hare. I have Sandra Holyfield. I have Jan Gorniak, who is the ex-coroner of Columbus, Ohio, which she's going to do forensic dentistry. That's going to be really exciting.
What's her name?
And then I have Jan Gorniak. Jan Gorniak. And then I have Sandra Lee, also known as Sandra Holyfield. Sandra Lee is another social media, we'll call her one of the famous people in social media. She is an admin on Lighthearted RDH with myself and a couple of others, Ashley and Jeanette, but Sandy's going to be speaking as well.
And what's Lighthearted RDH?
Lighthearted RDH is a closed group of, there's 5,300 dental hygienists. And it's dental hygienists that are just very easygoing and that know how to take a joke and that are very supportive of each other. It's not your typical professional dental group. I mean, people are posting inappropriate pictures that are actually appropriate on the group because it's funny. Just funny memes and things that are just down to earth. Because I'm going to tell you what, when you take off your lab coat, at the end of the day, we are all people. And, That's what we surround the group about, is basically we're just people. We don't necessarily treat it as a dental group, even though there's often, probably 20 to 30 pictures on there that are posted with x-rays and questions, clinical questions that a patient needs to, an answer on, or a dental hygienist needs help on, and we all just help each other. And like I said, there's 5,300 on the group, and it's closed. Any negativity at all, they get booted, and we let somebody else in on the 1,000 people wait list.
Is it a Facebook group or a website, or?
Yes, it's a Facebook group, Lighthearted RDH.
So Facebook.com/Lighthearted RDH.
Yes.
And it's limited to 5,000.
Right now, we have it closed at 5,300, and the only way that people go on is if somebody acts out of line. So, for instance, if I say, "What's chlorhexidine?" and I'm a dental hygienist that's been practicing for 7 years, I probably should know what chlorhexidine is. Now, if you have another dental hygienist that says, "What college did you graduate from?" or "Shouldn't you know this?" or "Go back to school," it's that easy. They get booted. So it's very supportive, whether you're a student or you've been in practice for I don't know how long, and it's really hard to get into because there's 1,000 people wait list now, and we just don't put up with any negativity. And that kind of makes sense with everything that I stand for as a motivational speaker for kids. I'm all about positive energy and positive vibes. So the minute we have any of that negativity, they get that's boot. Well, that's boot means to go.
Well, you're much, much, much smarter than me, because you're only 28, and I started Dentaltown at 35, and I still am a registered libertarian. So I didn't boot anybody on Dentaltown for like 10 years, and I figured they're all adults. They all went to college, I'm not gonna play dad. And there was a guy, Howard Goldstein, who's on the board with like 30,000 posts. He kept saying, "You got to get these toxic people off." And so finally, after 10 or 15 years, I don't know how long it was, I finally hired him full-time moderator, and he bans someone every week. And they always email me and call me and blah 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 blah. But the bottom line is, they always talk about their freedom of speech. It's like, dude, your Constitution is between you and the government. It's not, you can't come in my house and be an asshole. Right. And I own Dentaltown, and this is a party, and you don't go to some party's house and talk that way. So yeah, it took me a decade too long to figure that out, and that was my absolute biggest mistake on Dentaltown. So kudos to you to having the foresight and the intuition that if you're negative and toxic, just get, and everybody should always be auditing their own friends. I mean, if you got people that are always dragging you down and they're toxic or whatever, you need to block them on your iPhone and get rid of them.
Yep, absolutely. Totally agree.
So why did you cap it at 5,000?
Well, it started at like 200, and everybody knew each other. And, you're familiar with all of the people, and it was very, very positive. And as you grow and people continue to get on, they don't understand the title, Lighthearted RDH. And we'll just put it like this. When you have 5,300 people, it's hard to keep them in line as it was whenever you had 1,000 or 200. And so it was just one day we had it. We were done babysitting, and we said, you know what, we're closing the group off. And the only way anybody's going to get in is a referral only. You have to be referred by one of us. Or you have to be put on the wait list. Well, I should say and. So you get put on the wait list and your referral of somebody. And now the wait list is over 1,000. And there may be one day when we open it back up, but we check for their license, make sure they're licensed in the state. We make sure that they are actually a hygienist, and they're not a dentist that's coming on board trying to see if their hygienist is talking smack about how they take 15 minutes to do an exam, or anything crazy like that. Because the minute they talk bad about the office or whatever, and the office finds out, it's going to be a reason for them to get terminated. They shouldn't be texting and being on Facebook at work in the first place.
Well, I got to ask you a question. From you're a hygienist, I'm a dentist. Who do you think's better? Who do you think's better leaders in the dental office for morale and motivation and keeping them pumped? Do you think the hygienist do that better? Do you think the dentist does that better?
No.
Who's more likely to be toxic and a pain in the ass and their own worst enemy in a dental office?
Well, keeping the morale up, I think that that's absolutely all the dentist. I think the dentist is most important to keep the morale up, because I'm going to tell you what, the dentist is the boss. The dentist is the person who pays the bills, that runs the business, that creates that experience. And if the dentist doesn't have a positive morale, it's going to leak on the staff, and it'll be toxic to the entire staff. So I don't think it starts with the hygienist. The hygienist is a big part of it. That's one of the things that I actually do. I coach dental teams across the country. And so I bring in the motivational dentistry into the team building. And it starts with the dentist and being the positive leader and the positive dentist. And if they're negative, it could have a negative impact on the team. And if they're positive, then I stress keeping only positive team members around you, or only positive hygienists, because there's also a lot of energy vampires out there that are hygienists, but also team members. And so when we're going into the offices, we're pushing for the finding the strengths and team building and only positive. Any negative, him and I have a hallway huddle, and I tell him, who his cancer is. So I don't go in there with the intent of getting rid of somebody, but I earn that trust at the beginning before I even sign the contract and say, hey, do I have the ability to come to you and tell you if you have a cancer, and are you going to do something about it?
And you practice in Delray Beach, Florida?
No. Only practicing I do is overseas and third world countries doing dental missions. That's the only practicing I do. I live in Delray Beach, Florida, but I don't practice. I hold an active license in the state of Ohio, and thank you for saying the Ohio State University. and I hold an active license in Hawaii as well. But I can't stand to be trapped in an operatory for all day. It's just not for me. I need to be going around and on the move. It was 9:50 about 3 years ago. I was looking at my watch, 9:50 a.m. And I about had a panic attack, because at that point I was used to coaching offices and had a temp agency at the time, was running business, and so I wasn't working for what I was used to. I was used to making more money, but I was used to being on the go and doing what I want. And whenever I looked at my watch, it was 9:50. I thought it should have been about at least 3:50. And so I said that day, this is the last full day that I practice, and I'm doing it for money. The only time I'm going to practice is if I'm helping a friend cleaning their teeth, they need it bad, or if I'm doing a 12-hour day, 5 days in a row for an orphanage or a third world country where I'd love to do the missions.
That's so cool that when you do what you love, you never work another day the rest of your life.
Yep, you're right.
So let me talk to you about the 5,000-pound elephant in the room that stresses all the dental offices out today. When I was your age at 28, you just had your fee and you cemented the insurance, and they paid 100% for a clean exam and X-ray, and 80% for fillings and root canals, and 50% for crowns and dentures and partials. And then over the years, they said, no, we're going to tell you the fee, thus the PPO. But they dropped the $1,000 root canal fee to $600. I mean, it's a 40% reduction. So it's so stressful in dental offices, because everybody's 82% of dentists are working on a 40% fee reduction. So what's the future of hygiene when these PPOs are paying you for a cleaning that's barely above your hourly wage?
What's the future of hygiene? Well, man, that's a broad question, but I get it, and that's why dentists are more often, whenever the patients are canceling, they're sending their hygienist home, or they're telling their hygienist to get off the clock, and that seems to be trending a lot more often, and I don't agree with it at all. But it's the fact of the matter. But being a business owner, I get it, and I personally feel that a dental hygienist should be put on we'll call it a production-based pay. And here's the reason why. Because whenever you have the hygienist on a production-based pay, if the patients aren't coming in, they're not getting paid. and they treat it more like their business. And it's difficult for dental hygienists to wrap their head, not all, but wrap their head around it being a business. It's a business, and it's a business of healthcare. And if the dentist is saying you're getting paid on production just like me, he's then saying, I respect you as a business owner or as an associate. And I feel that you should be getting compensated for when you work harder. However, if we don't have patients, you're not going to get paid the same, because I'm not getting paid the same, and I'm going to get hit. And so it's a lot easier to run the business when somebody is based on production. And there's many hygienists that don't agree with that. But it's hard to wrap business mind around it. However, if it was me that had the opportunity to be paid on production, I would be making a killing. Because at the end of the day, I don't judge patients by their pocketbook, and I don't look and guess what's in their pocketbook. I do what's best for them and recommend the best treatment for them. And so my productions skyrocket high because I'm doing what's best for them. And so if you're a hygienist that's not making that much from a production standpoint, if you get put on production, you'll see your mindset will change even if you don't want it to. And when you have cancels, you'll focus on filling those cancels. So circle back to your question, where do I see hygiene going? I see hygiene going in more of a production pay rather than hourly pay. And I also see a lot more part-time coming up and less full-time jobs. I think that's trending more. Also with the hygiene profession, there's so many different schools that are pushing out hygienists. They're making it so the pay is becoming less, I feel like, and it puts us in a bad situation, because if you can hire a hygienist at $5, $6, $7 an hour less, you might go do that. Now there's more of them. So what's happening is as a profession, we're having to think outside the box and do other things that are outside the clinical operatory, like I'm doing. And so hygienists are seeking other forms of employment, such as sales rep, speaking, consulting, owning their own business, etc. And more hygienists are putting their foot down and saying, I'm tired of this clinical situation and the way that I'm being paid, and I want to be doing something different. And so that's where I have another group that's on a Facebook group called Trapped in an Op. So TRAPPED in an Op. And we started with about 400 within the first 2 weeks of opening, and now we're up to around 1,700. And how that got started is I did a interview. Have you ever heard of Mark Frias?
Oh yes, I did a podcast with him.
Yes, so I did a podcast with him, about an hour long, and he asked how did I get from where I was at to owning 5 businesses. And after the end, I gave my email out, because I said I would love to help everybody. I mentor so many hygienists across the country, and here's my email. You can contact me. I'll get a hold of you. And I'm not kidding you. Within 2 weeks, I had over 400 emails. And
well, you got to give your email out right now.
I don't know. No, it's Elijah at basicdentistry.com.
And what is the website basicdentistry.com? Is that a website?
Yes, basicdentistry.com is a website, and it's for my dental coaching. So I coach dental teams across the country. I got up to coaching 23 offices from Maui to Miami to Chicago, all over the U.S., and I decided it was time for me to grow. And so I now have 15 coaches that coach offices throughout the country as well, and I coach the coaches. I only coach very few elite offices myself. The rest have the coaches. But anyways, it's Elijah at basicdentistry.com. And the video, or that podcast turned into the group Trapped in an Op. And so I couldn't respond to everybody in a timely fashion. So I said, I'm going to start a Facebook group called Trapped in an Op. So when people ask me the same question over and over, they can just look and read it. And I don't have to repeat myself a million times, but I'm still helping way more people. And so once a month, we do a video conference call where I'll invite 4 mentors like yourself. So I could say, Howard, will you be a mentor and tell us how you got to
I
doing
would
all
love
these things?
I would love to be a guest on your show anytime, buddy.
Yep. And so you speak for 5-10 minutes as a mentor, tell your story, and then these hygienists are listening, and then they ask questions after. At the end, we open it up for a open question session, and they're getting so much out of this, so much mentorship out of this, that I say, you know what, I'm going to take this to C. I'm gonna do the same idea that's supposed to last 1 hour. These calls end up going 2 hours. I'm going to see if they want to do this in person. So then I created Opportunities at Sea. And Opportunities at Sea is my charity event, to where I basically have 10 to 15 mentees fly in, and and then I have about 4 mentors, and it's all about mentorship and helping them get out of the clinical operatory. And it's $250 to get on the cruise. Donations are optional. Donations get all sent to a charity for kids. And so it's just a event that's all about growing out of the operatory and mentorship, and that's blowing up as well. We did the first one in July, and we already have a long wait list. So
you are so damn cool. I mean, so what do you think's the inner burn passion? Where's the mission drive coming from? What touched you in your 28-year journey on this rock that made you that kindled that flame?
Well, I can't sit still, and I'm always into new things, and always have been. And after I graduated from Ohio State, I found out there was an opportunity for me to move to Hawaii, and I started my first business, and it was really hard, really hard. I was riding the bus with a lot of people that didn't have degrees, we'll just say, people that were living on the street, and I had to start from the bottom, scratch. And I had to work for somebody, which I can't stand. I'll never do it again when somebody tells you to put your cell phone away, or didn't you just use the restroom? That's my personal things, So anyhow, I had to go through the struggle of working for somebody, and I had to start from the bottom, and I had to figure out everything on my own. And I quickly found out that it's all about your network rather than what you know. It's not what you know, it's who you know. And so I started talking to the right people, getting help with my businesses, etc. And before you know it, one business led to 2, led to 3, led to 4, led to 5, and now I'm on to 6. And it's so easy once you just know. If you know how to run a business, to start a business, you know how to run a business. And my best friend Brandon, he's an attorney, so he's helped me with the back end of contract, legal work, LLCs. And so now I can whip up a business in a month. I just don't have the time. So it's so easy for me to do it. So I want to help as many other people as I can do it, because they don't have to go through what I went through. And it's so easy to do for me. I just don't have the time. So whenever I have an idea, I just go tell somebody to do it and give them tips on how to do it, or mentor them on how to do it. And there's just so many opportunities out there that our degree gives us. I can't even list them all. Probably sitting here for an hour, and people don't realize it. They think it's all about just sitting down and scraping teeth. And it's okay if you like that. Our profession wouldn't exist if we didn't have the great hygienists and dentists, dental professionals. However, there's so many other opportunities, and it's not funny. So overall mission is just helping as many people as possible in our field of dentistry, but also the big passion is kids, motivational speaking for kids, and changing as many kids' lives as possible in a lifetime. So reading and interacting with as many thousands of hygienists that you do, and right now you're talking to thousands of dentists,
what advice would you give them from talking so extensively with so many hygienists for so long? What do you think dentists should think about more when they think about their hygienist, their office, their team, their hygiene department? What advice would you give them?
Tell them that you appreciate them. Tell them that you appreciate them, and tell them thank you. It goes so far. And hire the right one, because you know what? There's a right fit for everybody. I see a lot of dentists that are struggling with their same hygienist, and even the opposite way around. The hygienist struggling with their dentist. It's just not home. So, you could be miserable for 10, 20 years all the way till you retire with a hygienist that's just a pain in your butt, or you can get the one that you love and it's like family, that, you can go into the operatory and do the bobblehead, yes, perfect, because they're your eyes and can see, see everything that you see because you have that relationship and you have that understanding. And yes, I understand hygienists aren't supposed to diagnose, but what the heck, we know. So you call it diagnose or not, if you have that relationship with your hygienist, it makes things so much easier where you don't have to spend 10, 15 minutes in the operatory because your hygienist already explained the treatment. And so, but yes, you said, Howard, I'm speaking to thousands of hygienists, but I'm also speaking to a lot of dentists and dental teams. So whenever I'm speaking throughout the country, that's what I'm doing, is speaking for teams, total teams, and teaching case presentation and motivating the teams, motivating the dental offices to be successful in a happy environment that's, very productive. But go back full circle to what's the number one thing: be happy with the hygienist and tell them thank you and you appreciate them a lot. It goes so far, because a lot of hygienists, they don't feel appreciated, and they feel like they're always getting picked on or something's not right or this and that. And when you just say thank you, I appreciate you, you did a great job, it goes so far.
You know what I do to really show profound appreciation of dental hygienists? Every Sunday, I go to all the prisons in Arizona and I visit all the hygienists in prison from diagnosing dentistry. I think, these dentists say, well, they're not allowed to diagnose dentistry. I say, okay, give me the name of one hygienist in prison today. I mean, right now, someone's driving by my house with 3 pounds of weed in his trunk, and you're afraid to let your hygienist read an x-ray? I mean, really? I mean, every law is just a suggestion written by an idiot in America. And you're in there for an hour. The patient trusts you. I mean, when you see a black hole on an x-ray, I mean, what do you need, a Ouija board? Do you need to have me fly in the tooth fairy on a unicorn to explain it to you? I mean, my hygienists have been diagnosing and reading and treatment planning for 29 years. Now, obviously, I'm not going to go in there and pull a wisdom tooth if I don't agree with it. I mean, so, you're just splitting legal hairs. I mean, it's communication. And at the end of the day, they say divorces are in 3/3. A third's over money, a third's over sex, and a third's over substance abuse. But when you talk to marriage counselors, it's not even that. It's just they don't communicate about the problems of money and sex, and they think you're drinking too much. They just don't communicate. And I think the biggest problem with dentists and hygienists and assistants is the dentist holds in all these thoughts, and she just doesn't go to lunch to Subway with her hygienist and say, this is what's keeping me up at night, help me. We're all on the same team. I mean, we're all just trying to treat a patient. It's communication, communication, communication. I want to switch to clinical.
Yep.
You're a speaker for Straumann. One of the bizarrest things in dentistry today is there's not even a diagnosis of when periimplantitis, of when you can't get all the dentists to agree on when does this implant have to be filled. So we've placed all these implants. So when you do a root canal, you can say, well, the lesion healed up, it's histologically successful, or it's clinically successful, or it's been success, it's still in the mouth 5 years later. But there's all these implants that were placed in the 80s and the 90s, and some of them have lost half their bone, and the gums around it are crazy, but you can still eat a cheeseburger or French fries and eat your tater tots. So tell us your journey. How did you become a speaker for Straumann? And what advice would you give dentists when they're looking at an implant and they're seeing periimplantitis around there, which is about 20% of all the sunk implants in America or around the world if they've been in the mouth over 5 years?
Refer them to where they came from. Refer them to the specialist. There's so many times where this happens and they try to stay internally. Refer them out to an oral surgeon or a periodontist. And as far as my journey with Straumann, it came because there was, and I don't want to switch paths too much, but it came because of the biologics product Emdogain with the smart proteins. And in school, I was taught once it's gone, it's gone. And once you have perio, you always have perio. And in fact, after 2 million patients have been treated, I found that to no longer be true. And with the product Emdogain, you can regenerate alveolar bones.
Okay. Slow down, Spanky. You said biologics by Straumann.
Biologics, yes, and the product is called Emdogain.
Spell that.
EMDOGAIN.
Emdogain. The company is biologics.com.
Nope, the company is Straumann.
Okay, Straumann makes
Emdogain.
So where does the word biologics come in?
So the Emdogain is a biologic.
Okay.
So basically, what it's composed of is, I'll take you back to science a little bit. In the innate tooth bud of a porcine of a pig, there is in the second fenestration of the Hertwig root sheath, there's these proteins that are found in their highest abundance, enamel matrix derivatives. And those proteins are taken and then put into a PGA carrier. That carrier is like a gel. It's just holding the proteins in. And what happens is you put those together. That together is called Emdogain, which is a biologic. Now, what happens is you completely remove all the calculus from the tooth, and as you know, us hygienists, we miss about 40% on average because we're scaling blindly. And so once we remove that calculus, and you got a flap, you got to place a flap, or you got to use the endoscope, so you can go down in the sulcus and make sure everything is gone. You place the Emdogain down into the sulcus. And what happens is, because of the pH and the body temperature, those proteins proliferate from that PGA carrier, and immediately the biological cascade begins. So when that happens, you have the mesenchymal cells that are the signaling cells, the party planners that are bringing out the cytokines and the autokines, and then the cementum within weeks is formed, followed by the fibroblasts that turn into Sharpie's fibers, that turn into periodontal ligament, and that pull those osteoclasts up, forming brand new bone. And so after 2 million patients, there's been the most studies done, consensus data from systematic reviews of these the research and whatnot from all the periodontist studies. And, on average, just about 74% regeneration, which is absolutely huge. So I became obsessed with that topic. And Tracy Butler brought me on board to the Straumann speaking team, and that was one of my first topics that I had spoke on. And then I began to speak on implant maintenance, which is what your question was. And implant maintenance is something that we don't touch on in school too often. In hygiene school, for sure. I mean, they show you what an implant is, but once it's in there, how do you take care of it? And so I go around the country, and I go around the country independently now speaking, because I'm no longer speaking for with Straumann or Invisalign, but independently I go and speak on how do you take care of the implant once it's placed. And so as far as that's concerned, how do you floss it? Do you use plastic instruments? Do you use titanium? How do you go about taking care of the implant? When do you refer out? How do you diagnose? How do you tell your patient to take care of it? I mean, the list goes on, and that all encompasses case presentation, which is another lecture that I do, from the time the patient calls to smiling when you're picking up the phone, to the end of the day after you went through and talked to them and educated them through motivational interviewing or problem consequence solution. We get to the close and teaching them how to close the patient and use finance options and whatnot to seal the deal at the end of the day and make all that education that the dentist and the hygienist didn't pay off.
I just did a search on Dental Town. It's got a that little search function. If you ever come to Phoenix, I gotta show you Dental Town and Hygiene Town. When you go into where the computers are, the Google box is yellow, so it's the only yellow box there, and it's like 50 grand. whenever you update it, you have to buy a new box. But I just put an Emdogain, and the threads where they're talking about it. I mean, they just go on forever. I mean, I wish you'd go on there and post on those and tell them what you know about Emdogain, because what you just said was just like listening to a symphony. I mean, it really was. You should go on there and do a search for Emdogain and tell them what your thoughts are. That you open up a lot of questions though. Do you think that helps with periimplantitis?
Emdogain itself?
Yeah.
I mean, yes, and no. If you have periimplantitis, more than likely you're gonna go and you're gonna get that. You're gonna send them out to the periodontist, and if it's a vertical bone defect that you see there, then they can absolutely place Emdogain once they get that under control, with or without bone.
Yeah. And cleaning around an implant, do you like plastic instruments, titanium, or ultrasonics?
So plastic instruments are definitely something of the past. They put plastic instruments in your hand in hygiene school, and I'm going to tell you what, you think you're not doing anything when you're using that dang instrument. Well, it's because you're pretty much not doing anything besides leaving the plastic residue. It's no good for the titanium instruments. At the end of the day, you should be using titanium on titanium, and the biggest thing is you need to understand the Rockwell hardness of that titanium instrument. If you don't know it, I'm sure you probably know what Rockwell hardness is. I don't know if all the listeners do or not, but Rockwell hardness is how hard is that scalar, how hard is that titanium implant. And we'll say an average Rockwell hardness of a titanium implant would be around, we'll say, 38. And so what that means is the scalar that you're using needs to be a less Rockwell hardness. And to be on the safe side, you should be at 30 or below. Any dental instrument that you're using, a dental implant instrument that you're using, if you are using it on an implant and you don't know what the Rockwell hardness is, you need to immediately stop, call that company, and ask them the research and what is the Rockwell hardness on that instrument, because if you don't, you could be doing some detrimental things to the implant. And you asked about ultrasonics. You use ultrasonic. Well, Susan Wingrove actually did a study in New York with the ultrasonic, we'll say, failed implants. And, they looked at it microscopically, and they could see, residue from different types of metal, plastic on the failed implants. And then they couldn't figure out for a while what this blue stuff was. And this blue stuff, what it was that tip that they put on the end of the ultrasonic. I don't know if you've ever seen one or not, but it's a blue tip. That tip that goes underneath or on the implant, that was actually leaving blue residue, which obviously you don't want. You don't want to leave behind anything, which is why you use titanium instruments. So to answer your question, if you're going to use that, irrigate the pocket. You don't clean the implant with it. It makes no sense to do that. You want to use titanium on titanium.
Wow. I just did that Google search on Dentaltown app for Rockwell hardness. Only one post.
Oh, wow.
So that's so I guarantee out of 4 million posts, if there's only one post on it, I would have to mathematically say almost no one knows about the Rockwell hardness.
Wow, that's crazy. It's all about research. At the end of the day, we're in a scientific-based profession and very research-driven, and there's no research, we have no profession, or at least a profession that has any credibility, and that's what it's all about. So I give a 3-hour lecture on that.
Well, you ought to make one on Dentaltown.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
We put up 360 courses. By the way, there's a thread on Dentaltown that says every time I mention the online CE, they take a drink of beer. But what I'm so excited about that is we put up those online CE courses. We put up 350 courses. They've been viewed 600,000 times. And what I love about it the most is not so much transferring your wealth of knowledge in the United States, but transferring the knowledge to Tanzania and Ethiopia and Nepal. And I've gone to dental schools all over Asia, Africa, South America. My God, those schools, they just eat this stuff up. They love it. You know,
Hmm.
because a lot of those schools, you go in there and their textbooks are all 20 years old because they're
Yep.
poor. And then,
Hmm.
so they're poor, but they all have a smartphone. And, you know,
Hmm.
so it's amazing. So what do you think of Lanap? That's another buzzword in your perio world.
Well, you know what? To be honest with you, I am not knowledgeable enough on the LANAP to really to speak on that from an educational standpoint. I don't speak on it personally. That's not my area of expertise. But I do know that LANAP compared to a biologic that is Emdogain, right? Emdogain is the only biologic that grows all three cell types. It does not grow alveolar bone, cementum, and periodontal ligament. I know it grows alveolar bone. However, I'm not sure about the cementum, and it doesn't grow periodontal ligament. And
Huh.
so,
And then another part of your journey was Invisalign. How did that
yeah.
happen? What's your
Um,
thoughts there?
oh my goodness. So, lots of thoughts. So I'll tell you, I came from Hawaii, and then I
Well,
moved
first
to
of all,
Las Vegas.
you got to tell us how you went from Ohio to Hawaii. Were you just so damn cold in Ohio with those rough winters that you wanted palm trees?
Yeah, I needed to go to a beach, and I needed to go to a city, and there was a shortage of 400 dental hygienists. So I'm like, I'm going far away, and I don't care what anybody says. I'm doing it, and I know there's a shortage of 400 dental hygienists. I'm going to go ahead and start my first business while I'm over there and start a dental temp agency.
So
So anyhow,
so you went to Honolulu, Oahu.
yep, I went to Oahu, and I lived on the island of Waikiki, and how this will come full circle to the Invisalign track, but basically I had temped at so many offices through my temp agency, and I got to the point to where I could fire my boss. So I fired my boss, and I just temped, and I practiced in over 100 offices. And during that journey, I had got Invisalign certified in 2010. And in the office that I was at before I fired my boss, I had actually completed about 23, 24 cases of Invisalign in a 4-month period. I was doing the diagnosing, I was doing the treatment. Oh, sorry, didn't diagnose. I was doing the placement of the attachments. I was closing them, et cetera, et cetera. And so after practicing in over 100 offices, these dentists, they'd say, hey, what's so-and-so doing across town? Or, hey, what's so-and-so, doing at this office or that office? And so I would tell them what they were doing. And eventually I said, you know what? I can be getting paid for this. So that was where business number 2 evolved. So I started coaching, dental offices all across the U.S., and one of the specialties that I coach on is Invisalign and case acceptance. So I would go in and I would coach these dental teams on how are you and your team going to be successful with closing as many Invisalign cases as possible. And I would teach each person on their team their role and have them come together as a team of one. And so what happened is when I moved to Las Vegas, I met an amazing man by the name of Matthew Kelly. He was an Invisalign territory manager at the time, and I watched him climb the ropes to regional manager. And Matthew and I sat down, and I told him what I was doing, and he said, so you mean to tell me that I'm an Invisalign rep, and you're able to go and coach my offices on how to get rid of and educate and sell more cases, and I don't have to pay you, the office pays you, and the office is getting way more higher production. Well, man, I'm going to recommend you to a bunch of dentists. So I started going around and I would coach dental teams on Invisalign, and they would go from doing on average 1 case every other month to doing 5, 6, up to 15 cases a month. And so he said, Elijah, actually by this time he brought on somebody by the name Kim Gerard, who was the territory specialist at the time. She asked me if I had ever spoke before. I said, absolutely. 15 years old, tested into college, and started speaking for kids at middle schools, high schools, and colleges as a motivational speaker. I haven't spoke yet in dentistry. However, I would love to do a study club. She said, it doesn't cost you. It's not going to, you're not going to be paid anything for this, but it's an opportunity to get out there speaking in the dental world. So that's what I did. I started speaking, and it was free at first. And before you know it, the right person, they came and they heard me, and they said, Elijah, he's a regional manager. His name is Jeff Guidi. He said, Elijah, you need to be getting paid for this. And I said, no, well, I'm not going to say no to that. I started off at the lowest tier. Within 6 months, I was at the highest tier honorarium for Invisalign. And one thing led to the next, to where that regional manager told, somebody in the state of Arizona. Before you know it, I was speaking in Phoenix. I was speaking in Tucson. Then I was in Albuquerque. Then I was in El Paso. Then they told people on the West Coast. Before you know it, I had spoke around 50 times in a year and a half. And I wasn't speaking as part of the educational team through Invisalign. However, I was speaking because I was brought in as a speaker through sales. It's two different things. So anyhow, I was doing that for a while, and eventually education pretty much took over the speaking. At that time, where it was starting to end, when I was not speaking for them, is where I met Tracy Butler and started speaking for Straumann, and then I was on the road speaking in 5 to 7 different cities a month. And like I said, now I'm independently speaking all over the United States and hopefully internationally pretty soon. It's really exciting. I'm going to Buffalo, Niagara on August the 5th and speaking with Susan Wingrove and I believe Betty, who is the ADHA new president. And so I'm speaking to a big group from Italy, an institute, and there's, I would say, 15 dentists and 15 hygienists in the master's degree program, and I'm speaking on ortho. And hopefully that will open up the world of international speaking for me, and that's a goal of mine, to start speaking all around the world. And here in about a week, hopefully that's going to begin that journey.
You need more ambition.
Yeah.
That is a. What's that?
I need more time. I need more time.
You need to find a cloner, someone who can start cloning. Have you ever looked into cloning?
No, I haven't.
When you were in Hawaii, did you ever sub for a dentist named Armin Chong?
No.
Yeah, he was one of my classmates from Hawaii. See, I was from Kansas, and Kansas, New Mexico, and Hawaii didn't have a dental school. So Kansas bought 30 seats a year at University of Missouri, and New Mexico bought 7, and I think Hawaii bought 7. So every year at University of Missouri, there's half the class is normal people, and the other half is from Kansas, New Mexico, and Hawaii. And so that is just an amazing journey. So I want to ask you, you're well, one of my comments about Invisalign I want to point out is that we were talking earlier about the PPOs, and in America, when I got out of school, they paid $1,000 for a root canal. Now these PPOs are paying $600, $800. The government dental insurance in England and France and Japan only pay $100 for a root canal. And you're starting to see a lot of dentists just throw away the system and say, okay, this doesn't even work. And where it really blows my mind is Invisalign in South America, Asia, and Africa. I mean, I was in Malaysia, Indonesia, where people along our living standards, you would say, well, these are poor people. But oh my God, every woman had high heels, lipstick, an iPhone, and Invisalign. And you start to realize that the difference between dentistry and an internist is the fact that these girls will walk from Miami and swim to Oahu to look rockin' hot. And I just saw all these dental offices in Malaysia and Indonesia says, well, we don't make any money on cleanings, fillings, exams, x-rays. We only get $10 for this or $20 for this. But those women walk in and pay 15 Benjamins for Invisalign. I mean, it was mind-blowing. I mean, the price of beauty is basically priceless. I mean, what would the average American 80-year-old lady pay to look like she was 65 again?
There was not a price you can put on it.
I know. And so so when a lot of these dentists are getting beat up because the office is 82% of the offices take PPOs and their fees are lower and their overhead's high, and then they could have a guy like you come in the office, and the next thing they knew, they were just doing one Invisalign case a week. I mean, that would be what's a typical Invisalign case? How much money?
On average, here in the United States, a typical case is about $5,000 for an average case.
So 5,000 times 52 weeks in a year, that's $250,000.
Yep.
I mean that's crazy. You should make an online course for Dental Town and call it beat PPOs with do a case of Invisalign every week, and then
Exactly.
no one would care if that hygienist had a cancellation or a no show and wouldn't be telling her to clock out if she was helping or he was helping selling one case of Invisalign every week.
Right.
I mean, adding $250,000 of revenue to a dental office is just the game changer. And if you don't think your patients have the money in Kansas, how come they have it in Malaysia, Indonesia? This last month I was in Johannesburg, Soweto, Malaysia, Indonesia. They're all selling Invisalign.
Yes, it makes so much sense, especially for a practice that's suffering or looking for easy growth. Invisalign has came so far. I'll tell you this. I worked with one of the top orthodontists in the world. His name is Dr. Sean Holliday in Hawaii. He's a top 1% orthodontist in North America. And I'm going to tell you this. Dr. Sean Holliday, his preferred method of orthodontic treatment is Invisalign. So if that had to tell you anything, I mean, it's the future. And there's so much, put it like this. You're doing the best thing for your patient by fixing their occlusal disease. So to feel bad about recommending Invisalign blows my mind. And for the dentists that won't get into it, a lot of times I hear it's because Invisalign, they had it back in 2012 or 2005, and they didn't have good results. Well, I'm going to tell you what, it's 2016, and this is the future. And if you're not doing it, you know what? Your competitor is. And there's so much opportunity there in so many different ways. You're referring patients out. It doesn't make sense. And sometimes the dental offices, they have Invisalign. There's a provider, but, they don't use it. They don't utilize it. So that's whenever I come into play and I get their butt in gear and I get them pushing out one or more Invisalign, per week. I mean, there's offices that I work with that have brought in $1 million revenue with Invisalign in 1 year. And that's Invisalign only. Now, yep, you're talking about offices that are at the top 1% in North America that I'm working with that get that. But your average doctor absolutely can be getting 3 to 5 cases of Invisalign per month. It's easy. It's cake, and they do all the work for you, and your assistants can place the attachments half the time in most states. The visits are so short, it only makes sense. Then they came out with these new products like Propel and Acelyden, where you're cutting the time by 60%, which means that your chair time and your profitability doubles. It just makes sense.
Okay, well, I just sniffed out your first online CE course on Dental Town. I finally captured you. When you live in a tribe, you're handed the purple Kool-Aid at birth, so you just believe that you buy your own. In America, you believe you buy your own house and car and iPhone. But when it comes to your teeth, Delta Dental and Blue Cross and Blue Shield and Concordia are in charge. And then the most startling thing for me, I think, the two tribes that blew my mind the most was lecturing in Singapore and then the next day Tokyo. And here's Singapore, no dental insurance with water fluoridation. Then go to Tokyo and they have no water fluoridation, but they have national health insurance. And just comparing and contrasting those two Asian tribes right across the water from each other, and you realize what is the human element of this. And decay had gone down for the last 30 years in both tribes, even though one had water fluoridation and one didn't, because they both believe that it was the teaching the children how to brush and floss is what brought down decay the most. Not behavior was the number one thing. If these people brush and floss their teeth every day, decay comes down whether there's water fluoridation or not. But and as far as the insurance, it was amazing. You'd be better off in Singapore, where everybody just came in and bought it like an iPhone. And the biggest headache in all of Japan is these dentists who say, they drive into your office in a $30,000 Toyota, and then their insurance wants to give me $100 for a molar root canal. And they want to say to them, well, how about I give you $100 for a Toyota?
Right.
you know, and so it's just people are crazy. But I bet you even smile when you're asleep. Do you? You just lay there smiling while you're sound asleep.
I've been told that I talk when I sleep, and I'm probably talking about something fun, so I'm probably smiling.
Well, hey, our hour is up. That's the fast hour. I know you got to get on the road to. You're gonna go to a wedding.
Yep, I'm going. Well, first I'm picking up my fiance at the airport, and then we're going straight to the wedding.
Don't do that. You'll give her ideas. Next thing you know, she'll.
Well, yep.
Next thing you know, she'll be trying to get you to put a ring on her finger. Don't
Well,
you?
my fiance has a ring on her finger, and we're getting married in 3 weeks on a cruise ship. What do you know?
In 3 weeks?
Yep.
Well, congratulations. That is so damn cool. But hey, Elijah, seriously, man, thank you so much on a Saturday. You just got back from RDH Under One Roof. You're on your way to a wedding. You had a 3-hour window. They lost your luggage, and you still spent an hour with me. Man, that's just so damn cool. And I love your knowledge. I love your enthusiasm. You're infectious and contagious as hell. I hope we run it again. And thank you for all that you do for dentistry, for hygiene, for Invisalign, for Straumann, for everything that you do. And I hope that my homies log on to smilesatsea.com. Man, if you were going to go on a cruise, I couldn't think of anyone I'd rather go on with than Elijah. So hopefully someday I will see you at the bar on a cruise ship, Elijah.
Thank you. Maybe I can have you speak on one of my cruises.
Oh, it'd be an honor. It'd be an honor. I love cruises. And since I'm Irish, I can drink even when the boat is in big waves and rocking back and forth and everybody else is throwing up and eating Dramamine. I'm Irish. I can still just sit there at the bar and drink all night.
You and I are going to have a shot one day on one of the cruises. Trust me.
All right, buddy. Let's do it. What's it going to be?
What shot are we having?
Yeah.
Well, what do you like?
Patron.
Patron it is.
Come on, I live in Arizona. This is Patron country. What is the number one shot in Daytona? What's the shot in Florida?
In Delray Beach? I drink Grey Goose shots of Grey Goose, but Patron is my second choice, actually. So
Yeah, well,
it'll work out.
I'm Irish, so Grey Goose is just standard blood for us. But but hey, seriously, man, thanks for all that you do, and thanks for spending an hour with me. And I hope you make it in time to go pick up your fiance and have fun at that wedding on a cruise.
All right. Thanks so much, Howard. It was a pleasure.
All right. Bye-bye, buddy.